Good morning. Welcome. Please have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our February open forum meeting. I'm glad that everybody was able to, or a good many of you were able to attend today. First and foremost, a bit of respect. Happy President's Day, right? Whether you're a fan or not, we have to go back to George Washington to, I'm sure there was somebody in that group that you liked somewhere along the line. Yeah. Okay. We've got a nice presentation for you today, some hopefully educational information, and I'll share with you briefly. We're going to start off with Diana Bailey giving you an update on that very scary coronavirus. Then Jeff Lane will come up and talk to you about something we haven't talked about for quite a while. I did a presentation recently on emergency call systems and life safety, but that was a very small audience compared to today, so I want Jeff to just hit some of the high points on that. Something that's come up that has been addressed with me on a number of occasions is, what do you do when you have a problem at nighttime, well after work hours are over with, and you have a facility engineering issue? So Randy Powell is going to come on up and talk to us a little bit about after-hours work orders, particularly for systems that are absolutely necessary that you have. I will then be introducing our new Associate Executive Director, Celeste Lynch, although most of you know Celeste, so she is going to come on up, and Celeste will share with you some details about her duties and responsibilities in her new role. I'm going to do a brief presentation on a concept called catered living, and this is not a program that's been sealed yet. It's strictly a concept. We've talked with the Resident Council, we've talked with the Wellness Committee, and now I would like to share it with you. Tony, our Chief Information Officer, is going to do a brief presentation on information technology. And then we're going to wrap up with an important topic of dining. There's some gentlemen I'd like to introduce to you today that one of them is the area president from Unidine, came down, who I've gotten to know quite well, and also the regional manager and some others. So that's a pretty full lineup, and then we'll hopefully have some time for some questions and answers for you. So just a couple of quick comments here. Thursday, March 12th, there will be a special Hotwire Town Hall meeting. This is one that you probably don't want to miss, and if you do miss it, just move on down to what's said at the bottom there. If you miss a meeting, go to the website under the neighborhood, go to video for scoops, video gallery, and then if you want the slides, just go to the executive director corner. On Monday, March 16th, will be the first quarter town hall meeting. There is a difference between the open forums and the town hall meetings. Town hall was more global in nature, and that will be on March 16th. With that, I would like to bring Diana up to talk a little bit about what's going on with the coronavirus.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to give you a bit of an update. I'm working very closely with the physicians from our practice. I met with Dr. Contreras this morning. Nothing has changed at this point with regard to the United States. It's more of a wait and see at this point in time. We are putting updates in the newsletters for you from Dr. Contreras. We have submitted to the newsletter, so keep an eye on those. And if anything drastically changes, please know we will notify you. We're in very close connection with the local health department and the CDC, so we are up to the most up-to-date information that we can get. At this point in time, per Dr. Contreras, we don't know if this bug is going to fizzle out, similar to how the SARS reacted, that we had a big balloon and then it pretty much disappeared, or if it's going to become something that we're just going to be dealing with on a year-to-year basis, which is also a possibility. But one positive thing is we are seeing with the United States cases, we are seeing some good outcomes with regard to the antivirals. So they are working on a shot similar to the flu shot, as well as working with the antivirals. So hopefully we'll get some additional positive feedback with regard to that. But the highest risk is if you have traveled to China, if you have anybody that came from China, you're at the highest risk level. But with regard to travel in the United States, we're good at this point. So just please keep that in mind. On a positive note, tomorrow we have Dr. Mark Agranen joining us to celebrate our 40th anniversary. The first 60 arrivals will obtain a free book, of which he will sign. And the name of his book is End of Old Age, Living Longer, More Purposeful Lives. So please, if you can attend, it will be in this room at 9:30 in the morning. It's going to be a very good, he's an excellent presenter. I think you'd really enjoy the program. And then we'll also be having Dr. Contreras speak after that with regard to programs available here at Moorings Park. So please, if you are awake and you've had your coffee, come in and see us. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, at least twice a year, I think it's very important we talk about some life safety measures. One would be fire evacuation, what to do in the event of. And the other one is what I call your first line of defense, if in fact you have a medical incident. And that first line of defense would be these life safety measures or instruments that are mounted in your home. The one I'm specifically referring to, though, is the alert system. Some call it a nurse call system, but technically it's really an emergency alert system. So I'm going to bring Jeff on up to talk to you about that. He's going to talk about a couple of other devices that are available. Many of you have them, some do not. And then even talk about safety a little bit, security when it comes to locking doors and so forth. Jeff?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I know most of you well. Hope you all had a nice weekend. I'm assuming you did. The reason that I'm here this morning is to reiterate the issues that we have in relationship to security devices. And you're all aware, I'm sure, of what they are, but Ross feels it's important, as do I, that we reiterate a couple of times a year what these devices are and how they're best utilized for your well-being, which is very important to all of us. As you all know, we have a motion detector that's available to every resident that lives here. And what the motion detector does, in a very simplistic way, is it tells us if you're moving in the morning. From 5:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m., it goes on and it'll alert us to movement within your bedroom. It's usually set up between the bathroom and the bedroom, and it'll tell us if you're up, getting coffee, getting the newspaper, moving, and it'll give us a computer readout at 9:30 every morning what the case may be. Most of the time, everyone's fine, everyone's moving, and oftentimes we'll get 4 or 5 names that come up on the motion detector that haven't enunciated. So what we do then is that a little after 9:30 every morning, our staff will look at the computer readout, and then they'll compare it against the departure list, if you will, because when you go somewhere and you're on vacation for a day or 2 or a month, whatever the case may be, you fill out information and we get a copy of the departure list. So if there's no motion in your unit, we compare it against our departure list and we know you're gone. If there's no name of yours on the departure list, then this is what we do. About 9:35 in the morning, we'll call your unit. If you answer, then we're happy and you're happy most of the time. If we wake you up, sometimes you're not happy, but that's okay. Most everyone's very happy to hear from us and we're happy to speak to you. About 2-3 minutes later, we'll call again, and because someone could be in the restroom or out of sight of the phone, or hearing range. And so if we don't get a call, an answer on the second call, within about 5 minutes of that, we'll dispatch a security person to your unit. And the reason we do that is that occasionally someone has gotten up in the night and they've perhaps tripped and fallen or something like that has happened, and so there's no ability to be moving. And so subsequently we then go to your unit and we check. Many times you've left and you haven't told the folks at the front desk that you're leaving, which is okay because we don't mind. So for us, it's an ability to check on each and every one that has a motion detector every day. We know if you're up and moving, we're happy, and we know if you're not, we'll follow through and check on you. So that's what the motion detector does. And any of you can have one. If you don't have one, I suggest you look into getting one. And I spoke to a couple this morning. Even though there are a couple, they're going to be getting one, even though there are 2 people. The next device you have in your units is the pull cord. Usually you have them in your bedroom or in your bathroom, and oftentimes in the guest bathroom. And what those do is that they're wireless, and if for any reason during the day, 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., you should have an emergency. And let me stress, this is mostly medical emergencies, but it's also other emergencies, and I'll explain something about that in a minute. But if you do have a medical emergency, you pull the cord, and the message goes immediately to 2 places. Well, actually it goes to more than 2, but primarily 2. The front gate gets the message, and the nursing station on whatever end of the campus you live on happens to be monitoring it. The folks at the south end of the campus are monitored by the Chateau. The folks at the north end of the campus are monitored by the OT nursing station. So at that point in time, during the day, the nurses will call. They'll ask what the issue is, and then they'll dispatch themselves to your unit. It's a nurse and an aide, and they'll come to your unit, whatever the case may be. They'll help you. They'll determine what the need might be, and if possible, necessary, they'll call 911, and we'll go from there. At nighttime, we have medical professionals on campus that are all paramedics. They work for the fire department, and we're fortunate enough to have them they work for us 365 days a year from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. So in the evening, if this should arise and you're having an emergency, you pull the cord and the rover will arrive, as will the nurses. So we have double coverage at nighttime. The pull cords, when you pull them, you might notice they'll alert with a red signal. When the first responder gets there, they'll reset it. And when they determine what the issue is, we'll reset in case you should need something else later in the evening. The one point I want to make about an emergency call system, whether it's a pendant or whether it's a pull cord. A couple of months ago, one of our residents, a single woman, was concerned in the night that she heard something. And so she didn't do anything because she was concerned and she didn't want to move or anything along those lines. And so she later in the night called the security office, and they sent out the rover, and he spoke to her. But when I heard about it, I went to her, talked to her the next day. If any time something comes up that you're worried about, not necessarily a medical emergency, but if you hear something that you're concerned about, pull the cord, because what will happen is it'll alert to the front gate, and the front gate will immediately send a rover to your unit. So if it's nothing, that's fine. We're thrilled with that. But if it's something, just keep in mind it's not just medical issues that we deal with. It's also concern about security. The third device that we have are the individual pendants that many of you wear. Pardon me. And you wear those as well as the pull cords at night occasionally. Sometimes you put it on your bedside. We encourage you to wear it all the time. Diana encourages you to wear it all the time. But if an emergency comes up, that's another item that you push. It also responds to the north and south end of the campus, night and day, to the nurses and to the rover. So, one of the other things that's important to us is that it's important that we try to improve our services to you, and by pulling your cord or pushing your pendant, immediately a computer starts tracking what's happening in terms of who gets the notification, who gets dispatched, when they get to the unit, when they reset it. So we then can look at ourselves critically and say, we did this well, or maybe it took us too long. What was the problem? And then we can reassess what we do on a continuing basis. The fourth thing we have is a security issue that has to do particularly with the R building. The R building, as many of you probably know, has a little bit different entry system. It has a card that utilizes itself and electronically to lock and unlock the door. So when folks go up to the door, rather than having to stick a key in, they can stick their card up and it'll unlock the door for them. But we also have a key, a universal key, for each and every one of those doors. So our security people, our medical people, all carry those cards and those keys with them. So there's no time any of you in the R building would not be able to be responded to if in fact you needed help. And that's something that I wanted to point out because that's the only building on this campus at the moment that has that system. So with that, I think Randy's speaking next. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. As Russ mentioned, I'm just going to go over work order response, especially during after hours. So the help desk, Linda, Rhonda, and Shannon, that is staffed Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And as we mentioned before at some of these open forums, there's really 3 ways you can submit a work order. You can call the help desk, you can submit an email, or you can actually log into our work order system called WorksHub and submit an electronic work order, one of those 3 ways. For technician support, we have all of our technicians here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. After 4:30 p.m., the help desk is answering machine only. So if you were to call the help desk for an emergency, you're going to be instructed to call security. So up there where it says, after 4:30, call security for emergency maintenance items. So what would that be? A leak, a toilet overflowing. We want to get on that pretty fast. An elevator that goes out, loss of power. Those would all be emergencies. If it's a routine work order, meaning a light bulb is out for a reading lamp, there's a stain on your carpet, we ask that you just leave a message with the help desk on the answering machine, or use one of the other 2 methods. You can email the help desk, or you can submit a work order via WorksHub. On weekends, we have a technician here all day Saturday and Sunday. I'm sorry, not all day, but 8 till 4:30. The same rules really apply there. They're here for to do their scheduled PMs, preventive maintenance checks throughout the day. But if there is an emergency during the weekend, again, you call security. During Monday through Friday, there's a technician here till 8:30 at night. After 8:30, as Jeff mentioned, we have EMTs from the local fire departments. They will oftentimes be able to resolve a lot of these maintenance emergencies. They can unclog toilets. In fact, they're amazing help that we have. They're quite remarkable individuals, and it's great that they're part of the team. If after that technician, Monday through Friday, leaves at 8:30 at night, and there's an emergency, then what happens is security will call a technician on call. Now that's going to take a while, say 30 to 40 minutes for that technician to respond. And that's oftentimes where the first responder comes into action. They can oftentimes arrest the situation, and especially in the case of a leak, shut off the water or fix the toilet. If that technician cannot solve the issue, he will call a manager, okay? So there should never be a time in which you're told, we'll get to it in the morning. Because if it's a heating cooling problem, that's an emergency. All of our service providers, our HVAC providers, will respond 24 hours. If an elevator goes down, that's an emergency. Our elevator service providers will respond 24 hours a day. And that's all I have. So Celeste.
Whoops, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be back and seeing all of you wonderful, familiar faces, and those of you that I don't know, I look forward to getting to know you. So I wanted to go over my responsibilities in this new role. Just a little bit of background in case some of you do not know me. I have 30 years experience in senior living. I've worked in a variety of senior living industries, from skilled nursing, assisted living, rehabilitation hospitals, adult day services, senior centers, etc. I've been working in life plan communities really since 1995, both in Pennsylvania and here. I have a master's degree in gerontology from Florida Gulf Coast University, which I am so proud of because I only received that because I was a scholarship recipient here from our wonderful foundation. And my bachelor's degree is in recreation, therapeutic recreation, from Slippery Rock University in Pennsylvania. So the number one question I've been hearing from many of you is, what is your new role, Celeste? And so I wanted to let you know these are some of the things that I'll be focusing on as the Associate Executive Director. I will oversee the strategic business, I will be the strategic business leader for wellness, for campus life, Orchid Terrace, the concierge, chaplaincy and campus ministry, the spa services, and parking and storage assignments. I think parking is a big one from what I hear. Also, I think the most important responsibility for me is that I will be enhancing the current new resident welcoming orientation program, and also the third one down, serving as the resident liaison. I think when residents move in, they need a point person. I will be that point person, and then I will continue to be your liaison for any of your needs while you are living here at Moorings Park. The second bullet down, I will be the predominant author of all communications to residents and staff. And as many of you know, I will be reporting to Ross Dickman, who I am thrilled about. He will be a wonderful mentor and leader to me, I know. This is an example of the organizational chart of what flows through the Associate Executive Director position. So Robert Sorensen will report directly to me, our spa contracted services, our new Director of Campus Ministries, the concierge team, and Lily over at Orchid Terrace. I know Diana already reminded you about the presentation that's coming up tomorrow. I'll also remind you that we have one on Thursday with John Fenstermaker, and I hope that you'll be here to support him as well. He's putting a lot into thinking about the history here of music at Moorings Park and how music affects positively your well-being. So that'll be a wonderful presentation. I'm sure you'll come and support him as well. Last but not least, I don't have a slide, but I wanted to tell you the second most question that I've been hearing since I've been back, and that is, what are we going to be doing for the variety show? So I don't have that answer yet, but I will get back to you on that. And now, Ross.
I wanted to go back for just a moment to address Jeff Lane's presentation on that sensor that observes movement, motion detection. I've had more residents ask me if that is monitored by the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, and the White House. And I don't have the answer to that, but I suspect not. I want to talk to you briefly about a presentation that I gave to the Resident Council and also to the Wellness Committee. The topic is called Catered Living. Catered living is, in concept, it is, maybe I'll start off with saying what it is not. It is not a replacement for assisted living. Assisted living at Orchid Terrace, assisted living at Oakstone is a regulated setting. It is monitored from a regulatory standpoint by the Agency for Healthcare Administration in the state of Florida. So there is very clear guidelines for living in assisted living. But we also know that there are a number of people who absolutely need some additional help when they're living in their homes, and that help is defined best as activities of daily living. A lot of words, a lot of living words in there, but Activities of daily living could be a little bit of help with dressing, grooming, bathing. It could be a little help with managing or overseeing medication so that someone doesn't take too much, too little, takes it on the right day. Could be some assistance with going to an activity or an event. It could have something to do with helping someone have meals brought to their home if they choose to do this. But ultimately, what the value of catered living is it enables somebody to reside in an independent living setting instead of choosing the alternative, which would normally be assisted living. This is not a situation where we don't have enough assisted living. Dan spoke about this recently. We have a good process. We have the bench strength to accommodate our residents on both campuses. But I will share with you that when I look at effort allocation of time and the number of issues that are brought to me, one of the most common ones, and Celeste will be involved in this in the very near future, she already is, for a matter of fact, is I need some more help, but I don't want to leave my home. I love my home. Well, we may not be able to accommodate that full request the way the person intended it to be, but what we are going to try to do, and this is purely in concept form right now, is create a program called Catered Living. And Catered Living essentially will start off in the towers only. And the reason we have chosen the towers is because the towers represent our largest congregate living environments on the campus. In other words, the highest number of residents living in a single location under one cover. Down the road, if this program were to launch and really take off, we can look at other alternatives. But it's really nothing more than a resident-centered approach. Resident-centered meaning we bring services to you. We help you live the life that you want to live while still maintaining that independent living setting. People love their home, they love their view, they have a history in their home, they want to stay there. If there are no advanced medical conditions, if there is no reason to have that person move to a higher, more supportive environment other than the fact that they need a little bit of assistance, then we can probably accommodate them. There are two programs here that we are envisioning. One is we call it the Choice Program, and this would be involving quarterly wellness checks, a concierge hospital visit, monthly medication organization, assistance with bathing and showering, and then companionship for a limited number of on-campus events. The resident would select those. There's also some meals in that particular program right there, meals brought to the resident in their home. We are always balancing between how do we promote interaction among residents and connectivity. At the same time, we know that it's a convenience sometimes to have their meals brought to them. There's also an additional, more supportive program called the Select, and that would involve daily housekeeping, much more support there because perhaps the bathrooms need to be cleaned on a daily basis. Daily meal delivery, 1 meal per day for each day of the week. Monthly wellness checks by a licensed nurse, daily medication administration, communication with the family, the physicians. So, a number of these services are provided in assisted living. But in assisted living, you do relocate to Orchid Terrace. And Orchid Terrace, for those who relocate there, the feedback is always the same. You know what? I didn't want to go, and then I found out it was lovely. It was wonderful. My friends enjoy it. I enjoy it. I have a lot of events and activities to engage in. This right here is really taking a different step and saying you can have those services or many of those in the privacy of your own home. This is not covered by Medicare. This is not a regulated setting. This is a private pay setting. We haven't finalized any numbers on this yet. I wish I could say that this was our brainchild, but it's not. This has been popular across the country in CCRCs. There's been a number of places that have done this. They've even purposely built a number of CCRCs to accommodate X number of catered living apartment homes. So again, go back to the concept of resident-centered care. Resident-centered meaning the services are brought to you, you don't go to another location. Why then wouldn't we do it throughout the whole campus if you lived in OP and Q, LM and N, and so forth? Perhaps one day, if this takes off, we might be able to do that. But to keep the cost palatable, to keep this down, if we use the environment of the two towers, we would have a nurse assigned there, by the way, and we would have at least one, if not a couple of direct caregivers or aides assigned there as well. We can keep that cost down by having them centered in one location. So one location can cover both towers. You know, as time goes on, we could try to think out of the box a little bit more and see if this program could grow. But there are a tremendous number of residents right now that live on this campus that really could benefit from some additional assistance. I don't see this being a program where we're going to go out and campaign on it a lot and wave a flag. This is not about driving revenue. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to break even for us, but it does give people the opportunity to remain in their home. Now, if you do live in a different setting right now and you would be willing to relocate to the towers if we had an available home, then we would not impose upon you any of the charges that are normally affiliated with downsizing, okay? So this would be something where we would try to make this as convenient and the least amount of impact on a resident who is at Moorings Park that can benefit. There's a number of scenarios that might pop up: a widow, a widower, somebody who just had a recent change in their life. They're not willing or wanting to give up their home, and then we can provide those additional services in one of the towers. Again, we would have a nurse assigned there. We would limit the number so that we don't create an unregulated assisted living environment. We don't want to go overboard. I would envision probably initially 6, maybe 7 residences in each tower. And I think that would probably be the right number to accommodate the need. So I wanted to throw that out there, and we talked a little bit about perceived value already. No transfer fee, they would be exempt from that. We're still looking at the pricing model of what this would look like. I have looked at some preliminary numbers. I can tell you that those who are receiving these services right now, only doing it individually, a la carte, are paying quite a bit more for those services than under what a packaged arrangement would be. Now, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony Marks, who's going to talk to you about information technology.
Good morning, everyone. Obviously, I hope we're all aware that December 2nd, we transitioned to a new service provider for IT services. And for the last several months, we've been going through a learning phase and providing the services. We continue to learn more and more about our environment, and I believe the service is going to continue to get better and better as we move on in the direction of them providing the services over time. One of the things that when we first took over was there was concern about staffing levels and the number. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a view of what are our actual staffing levels in the IT department. This is strictly for the all-covered personnel. In addition to the individuals listed here, there are 3 others, plus myself, so 4 Moorings Park employees that support IT. But the individuals in the gray are physically on site all the time. So those are the people that you see walking around, like Felix, Devin, Gabe. You probably speak with Gabe on the telephone. The orange individuals support our organization from Tampa. And just to give you some idea, the 3 boxes on the right, the all-covered help desk in Tampa, where partners call, there are 20 plus people that man those phones. The cybersecurity team, the team that's continuously monitoring our internet to make sure that no one is trying to break in and do us harm. There's also over 20 people on that team. So all of these teams are always working to ensure that our environment is safe and secure. So one of the things that I strive for is I'm a metrics. I want to see numbers. That's how I measure whether or not we're getting better. So I wanted to share with you some of the metrics from January 2020. So the number of calls to the help desk in the month of January was 862. Those are resident calls, okay? That does not include all the calls by the partners and stuff like that. This is doubled since All Covered took over. We're trying to identify what's causing the doubling of those numbers. But some of the big things that you'll see are, I took the top 3 issues that you are all calling us about. Number 1, DirecTV. That was not a surprise to me. The number 2 item was the wireless, connecting your devices. Not all of those were a problem. I know probably during the holidays, a lot of people received new devices, a wireless printer, a new iPad, a new phone, and you would call up and we would come out and help you connect that to the wireless. So that number is not all the bad things that were happening, but it could have just been you calling for help. And the third most frequently called item is our phone system. A lack of dial tone, static on the phone, on the line, and that is something we have to deal with through our infrastructure, wiring. If you change homes, if you move in, there's a part of that that's also there, programming your phone. But those are the top 3 items that our residents are calling us about. So my style is, we've identified 3 main issues that you're calling about. What are we going to do about it? I'm not the type of person that I just want to continue to fix your phone issues. I want to find a root cause and identify a way that we can prevent those calls in the future. So for the DirecTV, for example, the number 1 call, as an organization, we're moving to Hotwire for your television service. Currently, it's satellite-based, so has anyone experienced on a rainy day? Exactly. So that'll go away because DirecTV is a land-based system. It's all fiber optics, so you will no longer have rain fade. The wireless tickets, the number 2, I actually have an engineer on site this week. This morning he was going through orientation, and he's going to be reviewing the entire wireless network, checking the setup of every single one of your homes to make sure that you're configured properly. I've gotten messages like your iPad maybe keeps dropping off the wireless and issues like that. So he'll be here this week going through the entire organization, making sure that that system is set up correctly and optimized. And the third system, the phone system, will also be the Hotwire transition will also help on our phone system. As I mentioned, it's all fiber optics, so that's the most current technology from a network and wiring. So that'll help us all there. And with the Hotwire transition, we'll be installing all new cables on this campus. So you will definitely see a performance increase once we're able to go to the Hotwire. Earlier, there was a mention of the town hall for Hotwire. I strongly encourage you, I'm going to reiterate what Ross said, I strongly encourage you to attend that event. They're going to give you a lot of details on that transition and what you can expect during that transition. All right. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Ross.
Thank you, Tony. May 1st of 2019, we officially transitioned by contractual agreement with Unidyne Corporation. We were previously with Guest Services for nearly 12 years. The reason why we transitioned, I put in that letter that I wrote to you all fairly recently, that through a number of measurement tools over a lengthy period of time, residents repeatedly wanted change. We went through a myriad of steps to identify a new provider of services, and that soft implementation started actually in January of 2019, and then the official contract acceptance kicked in on May 1st. So a lot's happened since May 1st. There has been some mistakes made. There has been some people who have left that we've cherished. There have been some people who have come back that we've cherished. There has been some changes to menus. There's been some perceived value increases and some perceived lack of value. But overall, one thing has remained constant. We're not giving up, okay? And we won't. So today, I wanted to introduce to you the area president for the East Coast of the U.S., and that is Mr. Jack Silk. And I also want to introduce to you Patrick Simmons, who's the regional director. Patrick covers this area. He's based out of Richmond, Virginia, and Jack is out of Boston, but they both kind of live out of travel bags, I think. There's a couple of other gentlemen here that I'll let Jack and Patrick introduce to you. I will tell you, I monitor feedback from the residents daily, including the weekends. I'm pleased on some trending analysis that I've seen, but I also don't want to get ahead of myself. I know that we have a lot of mileage to go, but you know, from an organizational standpoint, I'll take baby steps at this point to make progress, and unfortunately, I think we're starting to see some of that. Again, there are issues that are unrelated to food that are problematic, access to a dining room, reservation systems in general. You know, some of these might feel like, well, what happened in June, July? I don't feel it. Well, that's because we're out of season and a lot of people have left. So we still have a lot of issues to fix long term. Some of those issues may not be so simple, but nonetheless, we have to resolve them. Ultimately, it could end up in changing our policy on utilization of certain restaurants. It could have to do with opening up restaurants 6 days a week instead of 5. But I think our overall goal is to create such a wonderful experience in each of the restaurants that there's a natural equilibrium where people just go to the different restaurants because they're all doing a great job. I'm going to let Jack and Patrick go through their presentation and make any other additional presentations. So with no further ado, Jack Silk.
Thank you, Ross. Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me okay? Good morning, everyone. As Ross said, happy President's Day.